Would it hurt? Would it be painful? Would it change the way that I was able to have sex? Hi, I'm Ali. I was diagnosed with cervical cancer in 2015. Let's talk about sex. So, can people with cancer have sex? You definitely can. However, it was something that did worry me, whether I would be able to have sex or not. I didn't feel that it was appropriate for me to ask the consultant or the nurse or the Macmillan nurse that was in there. Sex is still kind of a taboo subject. The medical team that were with me, they were there for the physical aspects, for the cancer, and not so much for the emotional impact or for questions about sex. So I felt quite embarrassed. I suppose I was fearful of the answer as well, of whether it would impact or not. I got diagnosed when I went for a routine smear test. I had no symptoms, I had no clue. If I hadn't have gone for that smear test, then it would have gone unidentified. So that really did save my life. So what is cancer treatment like? Cancer treatment is quite scary. You don't know the impact it's going to have. You don't know if it'll affect anything. Obviously the treatment paths that I took, the first couple weren't successful, and the only option that I had was to have a full hysterectomy. That was the only way of guaranteeing the all clear for me. But the hysterectomy did have a massive impact on me, both physically and emotionally and mentally. I didn't know if everything was going to work okay after. I didn't know if I'd still have the same sensations. I think a lot of people were more like, well, thank God you're going to be alive. You should be grateful that you're alive. The language used when I was being diagnosed and when I was going to my appointments, it was all medical terminology. So it was all about the cancer, the treatment and the effects of that, but not about how it would affect me personally and on my sex life. Okay, so how does cancer affect sex? This was something that I really was worrying about. I've always had quite an active sex life, and I was thinking, what if all that changes? Would it hurt? Would it be painful? Would it change the way that I was able to have sex? So due to me worrying and being anxious about the actual act of sex, it did take me some time post treatment until I had my first sexual experience, and I was so nervous. I was worrying about whether I'd still feel the same. It's my experience that the cancer treatment didn't affect the sexual pleasure. Obviously, the concerns I had, the worries and anxiety probably impacted that first experience that I had, but overall, no, it didn't impact on the pleasure of sex. How does cancer affect your body? Okay, so my body's gone through quite a few transformations since I've had cancer and the treatment. I put on quite a bit of weight. I felt like I'd lost my femininity, so I didn't like it. I didn't like the look of it. I didn't like the feel of it. I felt like it was kind of tainted in some way. So even though I was quite lucky that I didn't have physical scars, the emotional scars regarding my body and being body conscious and things like that, yeah, that did stick with me. I started doing things like I'd have my hair done more frequently, I'd get the false lashes, the brows, I'd do the fake tan, anything that I felt kind of showed me as being more womanly, more feminine. Yeah, I definitely increased that, and that was due to the cancer. I think that the effects of cancer have impacted me mentally. I was always quite a confident and bubbly person, and I still have aspects of that now, but I have quite a few insecurities which I don't think I would have had previously, and it's so hard to get over that. Where do I get support with cancer? Well, this is a really easy one for me, because I was supported by Macmillan Cancer Support, and the support and services that they provide are completely invaluable. When I was diagnosed, Jane, my Macmillan nurse, was in the room there. A lot of assumptions were made in that appointment that I would be more than happy to just go along with any of the treatment. And Jane picked up on it straight away that it was going to impact on me. So Jane advocated for me in that meeting, and she actually said to the consultant, I'm not too sure that Ali is going to be happy with this. So I couldn't have thanked her more for that, because even though I know the hysterectomy that I had to have, it was a bit of a no-brainer if I wanted to have the all clear. I get it, but it didn't mean that it had to sit well with me, and I just needed that bit of time to get my head around it, to get used to the fact that that was going to happen. So can you have a baby after cancer? Okay, so obviously it's different for everybody. For my type of cancer, my type of treatment that I needed, then I could not have a baby again after. And this was, like I say, it impacted on me massively because I had always thought that I was going to have another child. My consultant was fantastic. You know, he saved my life. When I was in the consultation and they told me the treatment options that were available to me, the assumption was made that due to my age at the time and that I already had a child, that if I were to have the hysterectomy, that I'd be absolutely fine with this. They couldn't have been further from the truth. Yes, I was single at the time, but I was always planning to hopefully find another partner to have in my life. I always thought I was going to have a little girl. So the fact that that choice was going to be taken away from me, it really impacted on me. And the assumptions that were made made me feel quite upset and uncomfortable, actually. So 9 years on, how am I feeling about this now? I did have counselling regarding the fact that I couldn't have another baby, but it has taken me a long time to kind of accept it and come to terms with that. There's still times when I wish that I could have. Let's have another question. Can I masturbate after cancer? You definitely can. However, what I would say is initially, I think I was a little bit too scared to. So I didn't actually masturbate straight after having the diagnosis or after having the treatment because I was a little bit scared of the fact that it might not work. And I did actually wait that 6 months until I had my first sexual experience for knowing and having the relief that everything was still okay, it wasn't painful, and that everything did still work. And then once I knew everything was okay, I was free to play. Can I date after cancer? I'm quite happy to tell you, yes indeed, you can date after cancer. And although it took me some time to build up the courage to do so, yeah, I'm happier than I've ever been. So regarding dating, it's like, do I tell someone that I've had cancer? Do I not? When's the most appropriate, oh, by the way, I've had cancer. So it is really difficult. So I think you need to know that the relationship is going to be going somewhere. You need to know that you can trust them. So the best advice I can give to anybody who is going through their cancer journey who may have these same worries or anxieties is don't be embarrassed, don't be shy. There is no stupid question. If you're worried about it, it's a relevant and appropriate question to ask. So please, please, please talk about it. I feel so strongly and passionate about the fact that this should be spoken about more. This shouldn't be a taboo subject. This shouldn't be something that you should feel ashamed of or embarrassed about. It's a natural thing. If you don't talk about it, it eats you away. It builds the anxiety, it builds the worry, it builds the insecurities. And after going through cancer and the treatment and the whole journey that comes along with it, this is one aspect that you really don't need to have on top of everything else. We're working in partnership with Love Honey today, and they've kindly sent over some fun sex products for us to take a look at. That's a bit different to what I've seen before. It's very light, could be a lot of fun. So what's next? Oh, that's really handy. The toy cleaner. Gotta keep hygiene first. The lubricant. Always a handy tool to have. Now, I do know I was quite lucky because of the treatment that I had. This didn't happen to me, but it can, that when you're having cancer treatment, that you can get some vaginal dryness. So lubricant can make sure that you're still able to enjoy and get pleasure when you're having sex. This one has actually been approved by the Macmillan clinicians because some of the other lubricants can have some ingredients in them that don't go well with people having treatment. Thanks to Love Honey for sending all these goodies. They're going to be so much fun, and thank you so much for working in partnership with us. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, and get involved in the conversations in the comments below.